We're back up in Scotland because we have unfinished business. Over the last 5 years, we've shown how the wildlife and countryside here is under increasing attack from the ill-advised. There's growing concern in the countryside that government's arm's-length management is setting landscapes and species on a dangerous path. So in a flying visit to the west coast, we're going to cover a few burning issues. In this film, it's the dark side of deer management, night shooting.
Agencies in Scotland have been quite proactive over the years and giving us tools that we can use to manage deer. So one of the ones we're going to look at the next couple of days is the use of night shooting. So here what we've done is we've taken as many deer as we can in daylight hours by stalking at dawn and dusk using high seats, vantage points, but there's a few deer that remain in here and the deer have become largely nocturnal. So what we're doing is we're going round to ascertain that it's a safe site, where we can shoot them, where we can't shoot them. And what we'll do following that is we'll come back here in darkness, try and demonstrate what best practice is for shooting deer at night. What you need resources-wise, what you need equipment-wise, what to expect, and also to reinforce the point that to me, it's a suite of tools available to the deer manager, but legislation is specific about how you can use it.
Let's begin with the morning after the night before. Niall has shot a stag under the lamp, but he felt it too tricky, even dangerous, to extract at night.
You grabbed him last night?
Yes, grabbed him and took the red out of him, but the reason we didn't extract him is when we shot him last night, you can see it's quite a difficult site. It's an area we need to get them out of. You can see there's development going on right on the doorstep here. And the chances of encountering an old stag like this, and this guy's about 10, 11 years old at least, catching him on the go in daylight is practically impossible. So they've been establishing woodlands to offset the landworks of the development here. So we came in and 9, 10 o'clock last night, we caught up with this guy. So it's first thing this morning, and that's us back in to extract him. Now we can see what we're doing. But there's a balance to be struck between your team's safety and the speed that the venison gets home on. So we'll see what like he is when we get him home and what we're going to do with him. His head and shoulders want to sit on here, so we'll pick him up like that. And as if I lift him, if you just run him back toward me, keep him coming, and fine. Right, so if you unhook me from the top there should be a rope sticking out the top of the bag.
Yep, one. Oh, you
Here. Got it? Yeah, keep the bag on. Grand. Yes?
There's plenty of kit on show, tens of thousands of pounds worth, and all for a stag that could be worth £100 in venison products. If shot on the hill, the client may pay 10 times that.
So do you have to do a course for this, Neil?
Yes, yep. I mean, the tendency when you first use it is to still try and recover the deer yourself and not pay enough attention to what the winch is doing. So all you're doing is steering it and letting the winch do the rest.
It's not a one-person job, this, is it?
No. And the point we're making all the way through, this is resource heavy. So at the other end, what's governing it is the speed that Stevie's feeding the rope through.
It is very moose-like.
It is, isn't it?
But with moose, you've got a community doing it, not solo stalkers.
Well, maybe, you know, the opportunity in woodlands, particularly as communities get more involved in land in Scotland, and I think that Cathy and I are very pro, maybe it's something they should do more of. And what we'll try not to do is destroy the woodland that's regenerating by winching them out. So you can steer it. I mean, Stephen's controlling the pace at the top there, but we're steering it just by literally, I mean, there's no effort here. You can feel it yourself. All I'm doing is just steering him by steering his antler.
And what range can you do this?
I've got with ropes for this, I can go out 600 metres. Hold a minute! Hold! Right, what we're going to do is run him up this post. Whoa! Keep him going. Whoops! Oh dear! Edit! Edit! That's on the to-do list, Stephen, repair the fence. You know what the device actually is? It's a winching cone for trees. We could see when we shot him last night that he had bare tops, but really whatever head he had, where he was, he had to go. But the difference is in the daylight, you're automatically gathering a lot more information from that animal. You've got bare tops, you've got an old curly coat in him. He's plus 10 years of age. At best, the way this animal has been taken, if we're lucky, there's £100 here. In resources, equipment and time, there's the three of us. So we've got our night shooting team, you've got your driver, shooter and lamper spotter. What did that cost last night? And if we take all of our deer management to night shooting activity, then the £5 or £6 million that's currently spent on the public estate shooting deer is going to be basically a drop in the ocean. So we need to develop new measures for managing deer.
Our stag is back at the larder for Neil to assess whether, after being left out all night, it has any value.
But what we did is we took all the red out of him. So by that I mean the pluck. The pluck was extracted from the carcass last night and the back passage was taken out. So all we've had to do today was take the pizzle out, cut through the atrial bone and split the chest. And though it's been out all night because we've left it spread on the ground, it's come back in and that animal's perfectly all right. That carcass is fine. But it's the challenge again that if you shoot something in a bad place in the hours of darkness and extraction's going to risk your team, then you've got to make a kind of a trade-off as to what you do with it. And if you do bring something back and you've shot it at night and it doesn't look like it's going to be suitable for further consumption by people, you can either divert it into your dog food operation, or with some of them, if we get it here, we'll recycle them. And the eagles you saw over the skyline a minute ago are more than happy to tidy that up and get rid of it for us.
What would have been the bad thing to do?
The bad thing to do would have been to have shot it, leave it lying in a heap, leave its internal organs in it, even if you take the stomach out, and left it to heat up lying on the ground overnight. And what you would have got is you would have got the meat, what butchers will use the term firing. And so that it starts a decomposition process and makes it unfit for consumption. So if you do have to leave it, then what you want to do is open them up. Some people in a woodland area will open them up, clean them and leave them hanging overnight and pick them up first thing in the morning.
We have only seen the climax of the night shooting process, so despite the appalling weather, Neil, Stevie and Cathy head out again to try and show just what is involved with delivering best practice.
So okay guys, I've been in touch with the police, filled in the standard request for information. We've got our start and stop time for the evening. Just because David's filming this so everybody knows what's going on, we're shooting under a night shooting authorisation, 18.2 of the Deer Act. Stevie's got it above the visor there if it's required, and Stephen will be driving and spotting. I'll be shooting. Cathy, you'll be working the light. David, you're along for the ride basically to see what's going on, and as part of the exercise we'll be using the pulsar thermal accolade and recording some of that just to let people see when they're looking on what thermals look like versus what it looks like through a lamp. And we'll do our best to go through it with you, David, as we're going and what we're up to. The dog is in the back and off we go.
Some deer are lamp shy, some are clearly not.
The one on the rock, David, see him?
On the rock fire? Which one?
Yeah, he's one in the middle of the beam just now.
Yeah.
No backstop.
These deer are on estate ground, not the open forest. They stand, and Neil can cast his eye over them.
Good mature hind, strong calf, yearling stag. These are deer that are out in the open range, and for me there's nothing shooting wise in that group this year at all. And they're perfectly safe because they're in the right place, so they're not causing any angst woodland wise or agricultural wise. So what we're out looking for tonight is deer that are in the wrong place basically. And when we can, we'll get them out of an area, and when we can't, if all other methods of control fail, then what you're seeing being demonstrated here can be used. The challenge that we have is that increasingly it's being used, particularly by some of the government agencies, as routine deer control. And personally I think it takes a lot of the selectivity out of it. It means that if you do have a serious issue to deal with, you've already used most of the things in your toolkit. So deer adapt very quickly to pressure. I mean, you'll see in the areas where we have shot deer at night that they won't stand and look at you in the light like these ones are. That guy there, 3. So people are shooting stags like that, and people are taking their heads home thinking they've shot a fine Scottish stag. That's 3 years old.
Moving to the lower level crofts, and the lamp lights up a fox. Neil is out and on it.
You keep telling me that the only foxes you shoot are over 300 metres, so what's going on?
I have no idea what happened there tonight. They did that just for you, David. That's the closest fox I've seen in the last 6 months. We're probably working hard to shoot maybe 40 foxes a year. But it doesn't mean that they don't have an impact, and we're not just shooting them out of badness. Particularly at this time of year, the hogs, these things will kill the hogs, and there's been a few killed in the fields here. Dog.
Now there may be some watching who think that shooting deer at night is unacceptable. However, Neil has just taken this fox using the same methods he would employ with a deer. Is there a difference? Maybe it's the fox having canines that sets them apart.
He's slightly different to your fox.
Really?
Yep, he's wider across the cranium. Where you'll find, I mean, these guys live on the surface. The only time you'll get them in holes is at cubbing time.
You call this a Scandinavian red fox?
Well, they reckon that they are bigger.
Okay.
He's not particularly big.
Back to the deer, and Neil assesses more lamp-friendly animals.
If you go back to the year in the life of red deer, the triangle, rectangle, instant fail. But you notice that he's short-bodied, shallow-chested.
So he's rubbish now.
He's rubbish.
He's got a lower belly than his chest.
He's just a poor stag.
Our last port of call is an area of forestry. We'd been here during the day. This is where the deer really don't want to be, even though it's all they know.
So it's a very classically red deer in woodlands. So this part of the forest is now going into a harvesting stage. So what's happened is this has been pre-fell. That's quite an old hind, but she's habitualised to this area. So what will happen now is this will be harvested, and then within a year or so this will be restocked. At which point that hind that's lived the bulk of her life here and never been a problem to anybody is obviously a problem to the establishing woodland.
After a long, wet, cold night, we finally get into a good position on a red hind.
You on her?
Yeah.
Straight down. And the animal's broadside, there was nothing in the way blocking the path of the bullet. We could see it clearly, had a good solid backstop. That's what we're looking for, David. So yep, I've been out in better conditions, but for the exercise I think that was perfectly adequate. Oh, carefully you go there. Yes, maybe not stepping in that hole. Flip her other side over. The weather's poor tonight, but it gives you an idea that when you're working with creatures that are shy, that every other method of control has been attempted, then you have that in your toolkit to use. It's a problem animal we need to get rid of, but even at that, for what that carcass will be worth, it's been a cost, it's not been a profitable thing to do. And as we expand woodland cover and we end up with more forest, then the management costs of deer are going to go up, they're not going to go down, which means we're going to have to think of other alternatives.
And that means not losing the expertise that exists on estates all over this country. Neil tells us of estates dismissing numerous keepers as they diversify to meet carbon offsetting targets. The new owners think people such as Neil are history. He senses it's quite the opposite.
I think It's going to be a big period of change, but it's going to be an evolution into something different. But the skills of a deer manager are going to be absolutely essential.
Next time we'll be shooting deer in daylight and revisiting some interesting management ideas that are barely believable.
It's just a joke. Disappointing.